After I had to move out of my parents' house, I knew we were completely on our own. November had been a really hard month, not just emotionally but financially. We were really struggling, and I was on the verge of giving up. I felt like the world's worst mother. We had no internet, and I hadn't checked my account online for quite a while, so what happened next just added to my sense of worthlessness. I quickly ran across the road to the supermarket, conscious of the fact that Matty might wake up at any moment and start crying, so I needed to be quick. I ran up and down the aisles, grabbing just the bare essentials: nappies, a few tins, a loaf of reduced bread, milk, that sort of thing. Not much, but I thought it could keep us going for a few more days. I joined the queue and I realised I'd been out for 15 minutes and I had to get back, and I was getting more and more anxious. And as the cashier was bagging up my items, I was completely distracted, thinking about 100 things at once. Would we be able to manage till the end of next month? How would I find care for Matty whilst I was out at job interviews? When would our next benefits check come through? So I wasn't paying attention, and I just put my card into the reader. But suddenly I snapped back into the real world as the cashier said, patronisingly and loudly enough for the world to hear, "There's not enough funds on that card." I froze. There was a queue building up behind me, and that was the only debit card I had. So I desperately started looking through my purse to see if I could find any loose change. I found about £2, held it up and asked, "What can I get for that?" And the cashier handed me the nappies and the reduced loaf of bread and gave me 5p back and said, "Next, please." And I was so embarrassed and confused. I didn't know what to do or think, but had to get back to Matty to check he was okay. He was my priority, and I guessed as long as I could feed and change him, things would be okay. Well, that's what I told myself. I genuinely felt useless, and as I stepped outside, tears began to stream down my face. What happened next? Well, I'll never forget it. I was standing there by the side of the road, looking up into the sky in desperation, as if answers would somehow come from the clouds or the ground would just swallow me up. And suddenly, I heard a voice behind me shout, "Excuse me, miss?" Well, I didn't turn round. I didn't know anyone in the area. Then it came again. "Excuse me, miss, sorry to bother you." The voice got closer and I realised maybe he was talking to me. "I just wondered whether you'd like these." I spun round. A man was standing behind me holding 2 full plastic bags, offering them towards me. I didn't move, but just stood there, frozen yet again. He walked up to me and placed them into my hands and said simply, "I think you forgot these." Then he smiled and walked back into the supermarket. Confused, I stood there watching as he went back into the shop, letting out a small whimper like, "Thank you." Way too quiet and late for him to hear. Dumbfounded, I turned and crossed the road, climbed the stairs and let myself into the darkness of our flat. Matty was still asleep where I'd left him, so I went into the kitchen and started unpacking the bags. Not only had the man paid for my discarded items, but he'd added a few things and even left a gift voucher for £10 in there. And then at the bottom of the bag, I found a little card that said, "I hope this small act of kindness shows you God's love in a practical way." And for the first time in a really long time, I felt loved. To some people, this might just be a few groceries, but to me, it felt like I'd won the lottery. I'd been in exactly the right place at the right time, and so had that man. This wasn't just a coincidence. Someone was making sure I was okay. I wasn't a religious person, but for the first time, it felt like God had looked after me. When everyone else wouldn't give a second glance, he'd been watching the whole time. Dare I say, I've even started reading the Bible to find out a bit more. I used to have to at school, so I knew some of the stories, but now it actually feels like it might be real. Hey, I might even start going to church.